Is it possible, Davis, that moving forward we might not need as many actual soldiers because of technology?
That's a challenging question that a lot of the Army's modernization officials wrestle with on a regular basis. There's lots of programs underway that look at potential unmanned combat vehicles. There's efforts to expand drone operator roles within the service, and it's an open question of how many people you will actually need to be pulling the trigger in the next fight. But at the same time, you raise different kinds of risks of, can somebody who's not there actually have a full sense of the situation, actually be able to evaluate the potential for civilian harm if they open fire on a potential area? There are split-second decisions that you need to rely on all of your senses to make when you're in that kind of situation. And there's a human side to warfare that, I think the way that the U.S. trains its soldiers that are forward on the battlefield has an edge in because of the way that we train and prepare our soldiers, and that might be lost.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's not really a video game, obviously, at the end of the day. Lucretia, I want to ask you, since you are a veteran, what do you make of this recruitment issue? I mean, when you look at the numbers and we hear that it's the worst it's ever been in terms of recruitment, what do you think is the cause behind it?
We're still in a global pandemic. So lots of things, including that recruiters aren't knocking on doors anymore because that's not where people are. They're not in high schools because we're in the middle of a pandemic. And a recruiter's job is really to connect with a person. And that's been hard to do for the last 2 years. So really the military is having to come up with new, creative and innovative ways to reach people where they're at.
Lucretia, I'm curious, when you talk to young people, do you think that the military has an image problem these days? I mean, I was talking to Ben about this. It just doesn't seem like there's as much excitement as there was in past generations.
Well, times have changed and things have changed. A lot has evolved in our society, especially 2020 when the world was in a pandemic, but also people were rethinking about what this country was even about, right? A sense of patriotism, sense of service. People have to know what it is that means for themselves, personally, what that means. And the military may not be the answer for them.
Davis, one other thing is there used to be these big bonuses that went out if you joined the military, but now with so many companies looking to hire, you can go work at Walmart or even McDonald's and get a big bonus. And some of these bonuses are more than the military bonuses. Do you think that comes into play?
I think one of the things that the Army has quickly had to come to terms with over the past 5-6 months is that when they pulled all the levers they usually pull when they see a drop off in recruiting numbers, or if they're trying to grow the force and just need to recruit more people than usual, a lot of those levers, like increasing bonuses, just haven't worked. And one of the big factors in that is the fact that you're competing against a civilian economy that's at pretty much full employment, even though we're seeing, some cracks in the economic status quo right now. And when it comes down to it, if you can get the things that the Army offers, whether that's education benefits, sign-on bonuses, or more, without having to make the kind of commitment that the Army requires, where you're going to live a set number of years in maybe funny smelling barracks with grown people yelling at you every day, and potentially have to deploy overseas. While the value proposition is still there and the Army's an excellent opportunity for a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of people who decide to take a safer option.
Yeah, it's a good point, Davis. I was outside a recruiting station doing a story the other day, and a lot of the people coming out said, "Oh, it's just not the lifestyle for me." They didn't want to live like that. Rod, let me ask you real quick. One of the new recruitment tools is people in the Army, recruiters will actually go into video game worlds and talk with people within the video games who are playing. You think it's a good idea, or is it too much?
I mean, the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, the National Guard, and the U.S. Air Force all have esports teams. They have direct partnerships and sponsorships with the biggest esports leagues in the world, and they have them with even Twitch and YouTube.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.